Morphosis.
Welcome to Metamorphosis, a channel dedicated to bettering Dota players through informative guides. Today's guide will be on Kunkka. To be more specific, it will be on building him for a mid lane position. We will begin by going over the ability build, then we'll move on to the item build, and finally we'll talk about playstyle. Please be aware that Dota goes through many gameplay updates. Abilities, items, and hero stats may change slightly after this guide is published. The current update, as of this video being published, is 7.20E. The ability build to follow is on screen. We'll start off with Tidebringer to help us immediately harass the lane. Unfortunately, because of how this ability works, you may find yourself pushing up against their tower. But Kunkka is a tanky hero, and you should be fine as long as their mid laner doesn't get great rotations from his team. At level 2, we'll pick up a level in Torrent. You can use this to save yourself if you get rotated on, or to get aggressive if your opponent begins to run. You can also strategically use it to prevent their last hits, or to secure your own if you're having trouble in lane. You want to level your Tidebringer as much as possible, but alternate after level 3 with getting your X-Mark ability. This ability is key on Kunkka as his mobility is limited early, and the more levels you gain in this, the further it can be cast, preventing the enemy from escaping easily. And of course, you want to pick up your ultimate ability whenever possible. As for the talent trees, at level 10 we'll grab the plus 40 damage. In the late game, plus 40 damage would still be significant, but the fact that you can get it at level 10 multiplies its potential, and it is essential for our build. At level 15, we'll pick up the plus 12 health regen option. Kunkka is already a bit of a tank, and this just makes him stronger. Now, the 120 torrent damage option isn't necessarily a bad pick either, but this build is going to focus on being in the fight and staying alive. I find it far more useful overall to have the health regen, especially when there's such a huge miss potential both from your potential misplacement and from an enemy's mobility to dodge torrent. I'd rather have a guaranteed perk like the health regeneration. At level 20, we'll pick up the plus 25 strength. Again, the other option is tempting and it's extremely useful, but this build focuses far more on Kunkka's ability to be a menacing tank, and have the ability to keep his team alive, all while dealing massive damage. Then finally, at level 25, you can take your choice. Most of the time, I would go with the reduction on the cooldown of Tidebringer. But if you're relying on your team more and want to help them out with an AoE stun for teamfights, the Ghost Ship Fleet is a great ability. With this item build, we'll focus on being durable and having the potential for huge damage output. In the video guide, we will cover the basic build, but we will also have an in-game guide. This video's guide will be slightly different than our usual guides because there's 2 different build options. I will explain this once we get to the core items. When we first get into the game, we pick up a stout shield, a set of tangos, a quelling blade, and a healing salve. The first item you should grab is your bottle. This will come in very handy throughout the game, especially since we can use our X-Mark ability to teleport to base and heal and fill it up whenever we need. Might also be important to mention that if you do this, you will need to load up on town portal scrolls. Then we can build into our power treads. Now, you can get phase boots if you want. This will help with your mobility and damage, but this build focuses more on being a tank, and the extra strength will improve our durability. Now, the core items are the part of the guide that will be different from our usual format. This guide will include 2 different options. Now, these items are not exclusive from each other, but the timing and order in which you get them is essential depending on how the game is going. The first option, and the one that I usually find myself taking, is for if you're in a situation where there's an enemy carry who's essentially winning the game for his team. If they're the threat and they're a right-click core, you should pick up a Shadow Blade and then a Heaven's Halberd. This will give you some potential escape and the ability to help both you and your team survive against a hard carry on the enemy team. The second option is to go immediately for your crit and damage item, the Daedalus. You will want to pick up this item regardless of which option you choose, but if you're winning your lane and farming well, and/or the enemy team is comprised of weaker heroes, you can immediately go for this item. Then you can follow it up with a Blink Dagger if you need the extra mobility, but the blink will not be necessary in all games. As always, Boots of Travel is a great late game pickup. Kunkka can also build any damage output item late in the game, but of course a classic is always to get another Daedalus. You can go full force tryhard and buy 3 if you're not trying to counter any enemy heroes in the late game, but I would never officially suggest that. If you went the Shadowblade route, you can grab a Silver Edge for an upgrade in stats, and it should help you counter some enemy heroes in most situations. If you are the only tank on the team, a great pickup is a Heart of Tarask. It gives you a huge boost to strength as well as faster healing. The focus of our build has been on tanking, and nothing helps you tank more than a BKB to prevent the enemy from dealing magic damage and to keep them from stunning you. This is especially important if your team is relying on you for your stuns. Kunkka plays the opposite of how I like to play. I like to play safe and from a distance, but Kunkka relies on getting close. He's tanky and can take quite a beating, but that doesn't mean you should be reckless. Play some games and begin to understand your damage output and what you can do. Remember, you can hit invisible heroes and escaping enemies with Tidebringer, so learn how it travels forward and how you should angle yourself. Most important of all, be a team player. Don't be afraid to waste some abilities just to save a teammate. Even if you miss with an ability, just its placement alone can save your allies. Play with your team and you can win most fights. As always, if you follow this guide, you will be a master at Kunkka. And as always, we can't make that promise. This guide is great to get started on playing Kunkka, but part of Dota is learning when you need to adjust your build. We can't cover every possible situation. You should know your enemy and know your teammates. Use this guide as a base, but be aware you may need to adjust some late game items depending on your playstyle and the enemy heroes. And with that, this guide is finished. We hope you enjoyed watching. Putting these guides together takes lots of time and effort, hence why there are months in between each video. We would appreciate your subscription, and if you really enjoy the content, maybe click the bell icon. Either way, thank you for watching. Play smart and win often.
At the stars above, talking about what we gon' be when we grow up. I say what you wanna be, she said alive. I say what you wanna be, she said alive. I say what you wanna be.